Drive, we'll start the video.
I'm gonna put away my NBA highlights. That's good.
Okay, so you've seen the title, you know what we were talking about. Before I get into, I want to make a disclaimer.
What were we talking about?
Dear white people.
All right, dear white people.
Dear white
He
people.
just wanted you to say it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Say it.
Nobody is allowed to run under my watch.
Fair enough.
This guy's in charge back here.
Okay,
Not
scary.
the nervous laughter.
Okay, I need to make a disclaimer before we get going here.
He's white.
Yeah, that's I think it's really obvious. I
For
wanna
real?
For real, man.
Okay, so it's my damn show. Let me talk. There you go. All right. So
You've
just
had your time to talk.
oh, shut the fuck up.
All right.
Okay. Resist the urge. I can hear you back there snickering. All right. So this is a topic I usually don't talk about because I feel like I don't know enough about it to have a valid opinion. Obviously, I'm as white can be. I don't have that perspective. So going to this, I know just about fucking nothing about any of this. That's why I brought these two guys along. They know way more about this than I do. I'm gonna learn some shit before this video's over. So my initial reaction to this movie, since Ron's like demanding my opinion on this.
Should we like introduce people or something first?
It's in the description, but hi, there's Ron, there's Mahan, and that's there's Mahan's friend who was.
This is guest starring John.
Thanks, John.
Guest star.
John.
Guest star, random person,
hi.
John.
Hello.
All right,
Alright.
there you go.
Say hi to the inflammatory internet people. Wave.
Hi. I look forward to hating your comments.
Yay!
All right, so, dear white people, just judging strictly on a movie standard, I'm gonna talk about the cultural standard in a bit.
Go for it. Go for it.
Strictly on movie-based standard, it's actually really fucking good. Like, the script's on point. I was a little worried at first, but it kind of leave my concerns. The characters are interesting. The perspectives are the big part. It's the big focus of the movie. Are very, very interesting. And that's probably what I liked about it. There are a couple things that really annoyed me. We'll get into that. But overall, it is a very solid movie. Just go check it out. Now, from a cultural perspective, again, given that I know next to nothing about most of this, like, I did learn quite a few things. I think it's fair to say. I think I have a bit more... I'm very open-minded because of their perspective. So, it's like, I was very curious about what was being talked about. I love the fact that when I saw the trailer, I was worried it was going to be just kind of like a... Just kind of like a single, only two perspectives kind of movie. Like, that's on, like, in any debate movies, like, there's one side and there's the other side and there's nothing else. But here there's a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different ideas, and I really, really like that about the movie. I think that's a really good way to go about it. And it makes me feel, kind of grounds the movie in kind of reality that I can get behind that helps me understand more of what's going on. Do I pretend to understand all of it? Not in a million years, because I will never fully understand it because I did not grow up in that culture. So there's no way I possibly can. I mean, I can try to understand it by what you guys were going to tell me, I'm sure. And from like movies like this, which is very educational, and I'm getting rambling now. I'm talking really fast. But
Slow down.
slow down. Okay.
Breathe, buddy.
I'm just terrified I'm going to say something stupid.
The extra breath always works, and the only thing stupid is something you don't say.
Fair enough.
Keep it going.
Oh God, I'm going to forget something. Anyway, but yeah, overall, I think it did a good job of kind of balancing just a lot of things about racial diversity. I think it did a good job addressing, I thought the homophobia angle was really smart. I thought that was very well done.
Well played.
I got really annoyed with the over-the-top douchebag main villain character. We'll get to him though. Let me be clear. I do not doubt people like this exist.
It's a good thing you don't, because they do.
I believe that I'm not.
And they're everywhere.
Yeah. It's one of those things. This is not a culture I'm very ordinarily exposed to, so I see a lot of these things this is all pretty new to me. So it's one of those things. I don't know. That was one part that kind of bugged me. I'm just against those kind of over-the-top characters in general. So that's just me. But yeah, I like the fact that the main focus is although even though some people say it doesn't exist anymore, which it does. We all know it does, or at least most of us should know it still exists to some extent. Maybe not as it did several centuries ago, obviously, but still exists in a way that should be talked about. And I did like the fact that although it does kind of emphasize the fact that sometimes people do kind of use that just as a means to get attention or a means to go for and stuff. There are serious points in times when action does need to be fucking done, and it is, and it's great when it happens, and it's satisfying. But it's just the fact that, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I like the fact that it's kind of saying that, while it's not always appropriate, at times activism is definitely necessary. And I think that kind of sums up my initial reaction.
That sums it up. Okay. What do you think? What do you think of Justin Simien? Because obviously, what we're witnessing right now is the birth of a new African American director who has he definitely has his own very clear agenda on how he wants black films to look, and it's at odds with everything else that's out right now. What do you think about that?
I like Justin Lum being the director.
Yeah, Justin Simien. Yeah.
Justin Simien, sorry. I don't know if I got Justin Lum. I think Tusk popped in my...
Matter of fact, I think he's the guy who's trying to pitch the reality show the whole time. I think that's.
But I also really like that.
Oh, is that him?
I think.
Yeah, I actually really like that angle too. I'll go talk about that later.
I've liked that guy since I first saw him in Better Off Ted.
Oh, was he in that movie?
Yeah, he was one of the two scientists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe it's not the director. Then maybe it's not him.
But as far as his directorial style goes, I mean, I like it. Like, it definitely does have that indie feel, which can be a bit distracting. I didn't really like the way they kind of threw a lot of exposition through, like, still shots and stuff like that really quickly.
Yeah.
Because, like, that was like, there's no way I'm gonna remember all that for me, because my working memory isn't that great. But
okay.
It's like, so it's like, you can tell it definitely has that indie flair to it. We were talking about this on the way back to the car. Like, some of the shots are shot in a way that's very, very indie-ish.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, like, the actors were all good. The writing was pretty solid, and like it had a pretty well-rounded view on the whole scenario, at least from what I can tell. I mean, I'm sure you guys can evaluate things that I didn't see personally. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean,
shoot. The director was the guy who was the dude with the iPad who made the app.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. Okay, I knew he was in there somewhere. Because I'd been following his YouTube channel. I remember seeing him somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, that's him.
But, yeah, I mean, the director keeps going this direction. I mean, like, movies like this that open up a dialogue are important movies to make. So, I'm all for it.
Truly.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think?
First off, I didn't realize where I'd seen Lionel before, but he's the Everybody Hates Chris kid.
He's Everybody Hates Chris,
Yeah.
and also he just did this Key and Peele skit. That's amazing if you haven't seen it. It's the one where he plays Stephen Urkel.
Oh, no.
For Family Matters.
Oh, no.
Dude, okay.
Yes.
Seriously, go watch this Key and Peele skit. It's like one of the funniest ones they've ever done. Just in case, I don't mean to take you away from this channel, but yes, we must prefer good shit when we see it.
We have pause buttons.
Yes, we have pause buttons, new tab, Control T, boom. Get the other video, because seriously, it's worth seeing. But yeah, that guy, he's got a long future ahead of him. He's a great actor.
But yeah, and I have the fun position of not being white, but also not being black. That's always a fun.
This is a good panel here.
I know, right? We have like a
panel.
slideshow.
It's a good perspective to approach a lot of these things from, because a lot of racial politics in America do focus on white versus black.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always interesting to get involved in those conversations, because I can kind of offer a bit of both sides, but at the same time, I'm not fully on both sides, so I can't fully know. So. But what I liked about the way this movie approached it was, again, the different perspectives, especially within the black community, and how they judge each other.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
About the fact that Sam is, someone who's supposed to be like a black leader, but then she even experiences racism from people like Reggie when he's like, I thought you were Puerto Rican when I first met you.
Right.
And she's like, come on. And she's hiding the fact that she's fucking a white guy.
True.
Because she's afraid of what that's going to do to her image.
Exactly.
Yeah, like all stuff's very smart.
So in other words, real shit.
Yeah,
this shit happens for real all the time.
You see the thing.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. Like a lot of different perspectives in play, and a lot of different things. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
It's not just white people's perspective on black people. And black people's perspective on white people. It's the perspective on the problems within the black community that are perhaps stopping it from overcoming these issues in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that was really intelligently done.
Yeah.
Especially with, like you said, with the gay kid.
Yeah.
Oh,
and, it was
fantastic.
Man, the fact that they made Lionel gay and also
so fucking smart move.
more like genetically black than Sam.
Yeah.
But also not really fitting in with the black kids because he listens to Mumford and Sons and watches
all
Robert Alton movies, like you said.
Which by the way, side note, That has nothing to do with being black. Sorry.
It doesn't.
Sorry.
It doesn't.
I have black family members who listen to Pat Boone and you know what I mean. Like, it don't make you any less black. Sorry, just get that out there. Go back.
But it reminds me of I have one black friend who, you know, he's half black, and he's always talked about growing up about how it's frustrating being black to the white people. But also amongst certain black communities being rejected because you're not black enough.
I know this firsthand. Yes.
So yeah, it tackled all these issues within the context of the black the black groups fight against their racism outside of them as well. So
yes.
I just found it a really interesting take on all these different prejudices, and the way that they kind of broke that down as the movie went on was really intelligently done.
Oh yeah.
And it's a very, very well formulated discussion from multiple sides throughout the whole movie. Even the black kids who try to act a little more white, I suppose, or you know, they want to be the kind of people who will get into the Ivy Leagues,
who are socialized differently than what we perceive black people to be socialized.
Exactly.
Right.
So very diverse set of perspectives in that movie. Very well portrayed. And they interacted with each other very well. So that's my take. John,
what you thinking?
I think also it's maybe a little bit easier to digest because so they take it from a sort of friendly approach, right? Like the whole like what does black people hair feel like? Can I feel it? Can I do that? Like people do that, right?
That is not a joke, by the way.
People do actually ask, can I feel your hair?
I've not had an afro since I was in 8th grade, and that's literally the reason why.
Wow.
I used to have an afro out to here. I used to comb it. It was nothing like Lionel's. I had it like, it was perfectly shaped, perfectly padded, everything.
I can totally see
right?
you rocking
And
that.
I used to get this nice little tiny black pick and put it in the back. That is literally why I shave my head to this day. I will not let my hair get any longer than this.
Oh dear God.
And that is the one reason why. In case all you people who went to middle school and high school didn't know why, that's why.
I feel kind of guilty too because I had wondered that same thing. And
Just white guilt going through the roof.
It was finally answered when we have a black roommate, and he asked me to cut his hair one time. It was the perfect like time to like feel it without having to say, "Can I feel your hair?" That point in the movie hit me. I was like, oh no.
Well,
I felt that before.
I just go up to it. Well, we're talking about the same roommate. We live together. I actually just go and stick my fingers in that guy's hair anyway. Not because I just do that to people, but because I know him.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the message of the film is that unless you know somebody personally, it is intrusion upon somebody's person that for some reason, and for some reason particularly in generalizing, and I'll own that. Yeah. White people seem to have this oblivious nature about them where they just choose not to see stigmas. Yeah. They choose not to understand why that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. You know, all through 7th and 8th grade as a young kid, becoming an adult, high school, there was that really awkward time. You know what I mean? I'm African American. I'm Native American. My great grandfather was white. You know what I'm saying?
Were you counting that in your head?
Yes, I tried. But everybody since then has all been black, and so I'm in this interesting position. So yeah, it's no secret. You know, I've had my mind made up about this film before I even walked in the theater, and it just validated everything that I was thinking it was going to be.
Met your expectations.
And yes, it met my expectations completely. And I think it's a film that needs to be out there. But really, what I'm so impressed with is that he used the device of film to explain something to black people about themselves. Mm-hmm. The name Dear White People was to put butts in the seats. The real movie is communicating a message to black people about themselves. Mm-hmm. It shows it's through a lens where white people can be slightly offended, but have a greater understanding of what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And right when you think the film is getting so ridiculous that this couldn't possibly happen in real life, the credits hit and you see all the pictures of all the colleges all over this country.
Yeah, I will admit
who are doing blackface and doing these ridiculous things
outside of this film.
You know, and that right there just drives it home. It put a nice little bow on it. And I couldn't be happier with the film.
No, I'm like, the comment, you're saying real quick, sorry, I'll let you talk more. Just
go ahead.
Going back to the pictures and the credits, so I will admit, like, I was kind of that same exact thing you were doing, like, it's like, I don't know, when people really do that, it's pictures like, oh shit, those are real.
Yeah.
And I was like,
well,
oh
but
dear
yeah,
God.
I have no doubt. This has been going on for me as a black man in America. This has been going on for me since I was of age of reason to understand things. You know, there are certain things that that I was raised to deal with that other people don't even need to think about. When you're 16, 17 years old, there's the talk. Do you know what the talk is? The talk is, okay, you just got your driver's license, son. Here's how you act around police officers. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, or you could end up dead. You know what I'm saying? There's that talk. There's the how to interact with white people professionally in business. There's the
White
talk.
face.
Yeah.
Put on your white face.
Yeah, there's like I think DL Hughley says it best. He says I speak Ebonics. He says every black person is bilingual. He says I speak Ebonics and job interview. Okay. And you know, and as crazy and as crass as that sounds, it's like legit. You know what I'm saying?
Did you ever were you aware that it was a mini series? It was a reality show. It was like 6 episodes. It was called Black White.
No, what's up with that?
It's pretty crazy. It was on FX, I think, a few years ago. But the idea was that they took a small white family. It's 2 parents and a kid. White family and a black family. And had professional makeup artists do them up as the other race.
Oh, wow.
God.
And have them go out into the city and see what they experience.
Wow. Dude,
and
that's like...
Dude, it's a really interesting show.
Is it?
It is damned interesting. They approach it with some really... Because you get to see, like, the white mom especially is so well-meaning, but so racist, and it hits her in the face so hard. It's amazing what this does for their perspectives. And it's over the course of like 6 weeks.
That's crazy.
And each week is an episode. So that was pretty cool. But one of the things that she mentioned at the beginning of it, the white mom, not the white mom, the black mom becoming white, was saying that it's kind of easier for us, I think, to get into character in a way that would make us seem like white people because we're used to doing that, to be able to communicate with white people.
That's crazy that they would that's crazy that I'm amazed just growing up socialized and raised the way I was. I'm amazed that stuff like this is getting made. I really am, because for years we can't talk about it. Yeah, I can't talk about it, like, and that's what's beautiful about a film like this. I get to sit with friends and people that I can talk with on an intellectual level who are not the same culture as me, and I could be like, you get it now? you know what I'm saying?
I feel like you're looking right into my soul when you say that.
The racism insurance?
Yes, I did.
He's like, I want to learn!
Yeah, I've been following Dear White People since it was announced. It got announced on Indiegogo years ago, 1-2 years ago. I've been following it ever since. I've been rooting for it, hoping it gets made. And like I said, I think in the development trailer that they made, there were some better actors in that. I will say that. I think that there were some well-crafted performances even for just that little thing. But the guys they ended up with did a hell of a job.
Oh yeah, they did a fantastic job.
They did a hell of a job. But yeah, it's like seriously, like little things here and there that are dropped there that Justin Simien really took time and care to add to help other cultures and races understand what we go through every day. It is literally, you know, the moment you go out the door, it is literally a checklist. You know what I mean? As a black adult, things that you cannot forget. Otherwise, you may run into some issues that most people would not run into. You know, for instance, a big one. If you have ever been hanging out with a black friend and they don't have their wallet and they're afraid to go with you somewhere, now you know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's shit like that, little things like that. Because if you're out in the wrong street or the wrong place and you don't have your identification, it's like almost instant jail. You know what I mean? Just little things that get sprinkled. That particular one wasn't in there, but I was just saying, I was making an example.
Yeah.
There's little sprinkled things like the tip test, for instance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The handbook that Sam writes about how to survive in a white college when you're black.
Okay, so actually,
Right.
I think we should give a little context films about before we move forward, because we're
Yeah,
talking
go for
about
it.
different elements that are actually in the movie that we haven't really fully explained.
For sure.
Okay, so the movie it stars a bunch of different characters. The one they start out first, a woman named Sam something.
Sam White.
Sam White,
Sam
actually,
White.
which is interesting.
I'm assuming that was a deliberate choice.
Of course.
Who runs for was it president or
She runs for
head of house.
head of house.
At a
of her
house,
college
like all of
house.
the college, like this big fancy college. Everyone's kind of just pretentious douchebags.
Of the traditionally African American house on campus.
Right.
Yeah, but she wins the election that she was not expecting to win on the what's the word I'm looking for? On the promise that she'll bring black back to the house or something like that.
Right. Which means she believes that they're being disenfranchised. Even while having an all-black house, they're still being, being subjected to disenfranchisement.
Because the legacy of the house is being threatened because they're introducing class randomization.
Right.
That's right.
While it would
Yeah.
not greatly impact other houses on campus, because they're all white, it would basically mix in the blacks with the rest of the crowd and bring whites into that house and basically decentralize them.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Which while that may promote a larger conversation among races, I'm just taking that out of the film and into the physical world.
Yeah.
While that may promote racial diversity and larger dialogue, what it also does is it strips the history of black franchisement bare almost. Because for instance, there in college there have been white people stupid enough to ask me why there needs to be black studies or why there needs to be black history. Okay?
Wow.
And my response to them is that okay, we need black history, we need black studies in college, because from the cradle to the time that we're adults, we hear nothing except for the great things that Europeans and European descendants have done to build countries, to build wealth, to build, businesses and
Yep.
economics
Yep.
and armies
Yep.
and everything. And it is overwhelming. I think what this movie supports is that the current stance of white culture, I think, is not one of outright hate, but being oblivious, not truly understanding, willfully oblivious,
It's almost
which
to
is
the
just
point
as
of playing
bad.
dumb.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Like to be oblivious to the fact that until I'm an adult, I have pumped into my head all the great things that white people have done, and they've barely told me on several occasions things that people who look like me have done. Do you understand? And that's what I mean. When my parents were kids, my parents were kids and then were teenagers in the middle of the civil rights movement. Okay, but as kids and the kids of the 70s understand that it was Negro History Week. Okay,
God.
which when I'm a kid, it's Black History Month. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But here's the problem with that. American history is littered with hundreds of thousands of black people who have made significant deposits and things into culture that do not get talked about. You know, a good example would be, for instance, everybody makes a big deal about Napoleon Bonaparte, French army. Obviously, European descendant.
Yep.
What they don't ever talk about is one of his captains, black captain. They used to call him the Black Devil. Okay,
Damn.
he was a slave, worked his way out of a slave, became a captain in the military, fought in over 100 battles on horseback with a sword, did not die. Okay, had a son who turned out to be Alexander Dumas, writer of the Three Musketeers,
Oh, shit.
Count of Monte Cristo, Scarlet Pimpernel.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, exactly, shit like that.
Pimpernel.
If you're not looking for it, you'll never see it.
That's cool.
You understand?
awesome, yeah.
Or nobody talks about during the time of all these great classical compositions being made that there was the Black Mozart. Black dude super gifted, did 100 concertos and all types of stuff, never gets talked about. These things need to be heard. And I'm not saying that we need to hear that in lieu of the European descendant stuff. All of it's important.
Yeah.
What I think, again, going back to what the film does, is that it creates that dialogue. Like, no, really, let's really talk about this. You know, and let's sit down. But here's the thing: going back, retracing our steps, and adding Black people, adding Asian people, adding people of all descendants into the conversation will take a very long time.
That's true.
That's what everybody feels like they don't have time for that conversation.
Well,
but it needs to happen.
Not to mention whoever's in charge of writing the history books and in charge of picking the history books that go into our schools and the curriculum. Like, there's a whole system involved with how people are educated about this stuff. And I mean, coming from, an Iranian perspective, little things kind of like that, such as the fact that you hear about all the different empires throughout history. But
exactly.
You hear about the Ottoman Empire?
Yeah. What about the Kush Empire?
What about the Persian Empire?
Persian Empire?
How much have you heard about that? It was significantly sized. It was around for a while, but you don't hear about that.
Well, they actually conquered the Kush Empire and took over the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah,
that's how the Greeks got it, because they fought the Persians.
But then, like, when you go into history and you're hearing about things like maybe the Mongol Empire or the or Alexander's Empire,
right?
You don't hear about things like the Persian Empire. There are weird things that are just kind of glossed over, and you don't hear about it. Like when you hear about world history, there are whole regions that you don't hear about. The only time you hear anything about what Africa's doing is in relation to
poverty,
what the Europeans did to it.
Well, or either that, or today it's poverty, illness, disease.
These days, yeah. But
that's what I mean.
In terms of learning history, like the only times you hear about places like that are specifically in how they relate to America or Europe and how they're
exactly. And,
but when it comes to, I actually had a quick little point a while back about white people touching things. Here's the thing.
Hey,
white people touching people's hair.
It's my car. I mean, I can touch the brake.
I have heard almost the exact same kind of complaint from pregnant women.
Oh yeah, that one I've heard too. Actually,
pregnant women talk about white people coming up and just touching their stomachs, like, ooh, how long? Like,
yeah,
what the
that one I've heard. That one I've heard about. Yeah, like the French laws right now. But.
So I think that's not even so much a black thing as it is something about white people that makes them think about the world as their zoo.
Yeah, and very true.
I got a question about that though. Is it just white people doing the touching, or is it this people?
The kind of person who has the mindset that they can just go around and be delighted at everything and, and be like, oh yeah,
that's a good point.
And that's a pretty white person perspective.
And
at the very least deeply suburban.
And in my circles with my friends of color, we call that playing Columbus. Okay, and that is a real term. That's playing Columbus. That's just like, that's like, I saw this land and I planted my flag here and this is all mine, sir. This is all mine. And then they came back and I had to shoot them. They were savages.
Yeah.
They were savages.
Have you seen the there were whole pages dedicated to it when Bush was president of him touching bald people's heads? George Bush touching bald people. For real, man. There are whole websites that have dozens of pictures of George W. Bush just doing meet and greets and shit and touching bald people's heads. And it's so weird. And it's like he'll be doing it in some foreign country and doing it to like some dude like sitting in a stadium. Like, it's so weird. But
no, for real. But that's a thing. The white people playing Columbus is a thing. And it's something that gets talked about more often than not, and and it's a thing. And here's the crazy part. We kind of don't say anything out of a weird sense of respect. Does that make any sense? I think
you might have to explain that one.
I think I could say because
why start a problem?
Well, why start a problem? Because think of it this way, like right at the film when Sam is doing her film and she's at the mic and she's like, "Dear white people, you know what? Never mind." That's what it is.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like You know, it's because here's the thing. Like I said, there's an oblivious nature to most of the interactions with white people and black people that I don't even think most white people understand is happening. You get what I'm saying? So rather than make a big scene out of it, most people of color are just like, whatever.
Not worth
And they just,
It's almost
you know?
like, you know what? Compared to the normal white people, at least you're interested.
yeah. Yeah.
At least you're interested enough to come to us with the, not you specifically, but in terms of what that respect is, it's the idea that people who are coming to you are not going to understand, and they're coming from a well-meaning place, but they're not gonna get it, and they're gonna say some shit that's really fucked up at some point. Like every time that I go to a dinner and some woman asks me if I eat pork, if I didn't, I'd say something.
Really?
Oh,
say
man.
something. I'm just saying, I'd say something. But I
But
love
why
bacon.
do it? But
I
why
love
do
bacon.
it? But again, but yeah.
that's the thing.
But
it's
why
like,
do it?
I know this about your culture. Let me throw it out there to make sure I'm not messing with it.
Right.
Inadvertently showing that I think that this is universal in your culture.
It's like a messed up version of telephone.
They're trying to be polite. They're
They're
trying.
doing their best, but it's like this oblivious cloud that's over them that they don't understand is even there. You know what I mean? It's like,
But can you make the argument, since like movies like this exist and is being more widely talked about, that maybe the cloud is starting to shift?
yes, and that's what I'm saying. I'm
That's why
saying
this movie's important.
This movie is
Yeah.
very important, and
Especially
movies
because it
like
approaches
it.
it intelligently and
Yeah.
rationally.
Yes. And it shows
fairly.
and it shows all sides of the story. Like I said, most of the film deals with how black people treat themselves. You know what I mean? And let me tell you something. If there is any kind of racism that is worst, it is inbred racism. It is black people hating on black people.
Because how
That-
they think they should act.
Exactly. Because no, you're supposed to be like this. No, you're supposed to be like this.
Why
This
can't
is
you find a nice black boy?
exactly. This is an item of debate that is in every black household, and but the crazy thing about it is that it's unspoken, you know,
Yeah.
most of the time. So a film like this can really get people talking, and I really hope it does well and it continues.
I mean,
on.
like, we had a pretty decent crowd for this movie.
We did.
So I was like, I
Agreed.
was very happy about that.
Majority of them were white too.
Yes,
That was good to see.
But I gotta say, I gotta do the YouTube call out, and I gotta tell you guys that the most racist activity, or let's say the most bigoted activity, took place on the black people's end. You know who you are. The people who were sitting in the stands who cringed and were verbal about two gay men kissing on screen,
One of them was black.
one of whom was black. You know who you are. You ought to be damn ashamed of yourself.
Oh yeah, like I was,
Okay,
you and I kind of the same
straight up.
reaction. Like
I heard someone behind us just.
there was
straight up
more
like,
than one.
"Ew."
There was like 5 or 6
Yeah.
at the very
No,
least.
but I specifically heard the ew.
Yeah, we
like
sat in the front.
Middle schooler.
We sat in the front, and I can tell exactly where every black person in that audience was, and that you ought to be a damn ashamed of yourself for
mean,
that shit.
Yeah, because like one of the main characters named Lionel. He's like a gay outsider.
And you don't
Which,
even-
by the way, I love that character's perspective. Let me just talk about that for a bit.
For
Yeah,
sure.
interesting.
But also, side note, you don't even know if that dude is really gay. He's an actor. Okay, Will Smith made out with some dude in 6 Degrees of Separation. You guys don't hate on him for anything. Anyway, go
I
app.
missed that part of that movie, but
You never saw that?
I think I saw like the second half. But,
Okay.
They had on him for After Earth.
Oh God, fuck After Earth. But that's all.
Well,
that's a whole other level of pain.
Now after seeing Dear White People, some of the storytelling that African Americans have put out in the last 10 years, I hope you look through with different lenses, because After Earth, poor science fiction movie, great black father-son movie. But nobody would understand that had they not understood that context of what he was doing with his son.
I was like, as father son dynamic, sure, I'm okay with that. It's just the acting was really bad on both
Yes,
parts.
It was
yes.
bad writing. It was an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just bad writing,
Yeah.
bad everything.
So-
Like, I'm totally okay. Like, what was that one movie they did with his son that was really, really good?
Pursuit of Happiness.
That was a really fucking good movie.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Also true story. But but yeah, like that's what I'm saying. I hope like this kind of a movie makes you kind of look back at everything you've seen, you know?
Yeah,
Is that-
there's a lot to
underfed
digest here. There's a lot to digest here. But anyway, back to what I was talking about Lionel though. Lionel was like my favorite character in the movie because like it was a very, very smart character to throw out there because he's a black person but he's gay.
And
Which, like, immediately, like, and it's, like, kind of the loser, outcast type personality, because he's not, like, black enough to fit in with, like, the black community. He's not white, like, gay enough to be fit in the over-the-top gay community. So and he doesn't really seem to anywhere. Everyone just completely, like, rejects him, prejudices him everywhere.
Everywhere. And that's where the human element comes in. He's just a dude.
Yeah, and he's
just a dude.
And even like the newspaper guy that ends up working with it's still using him.
He's using him to get what he wants,
well,
right?
It's funny because they use the gay relationship to tackle a topic which is actually kind of the same topic they tackle with Sophie on a certain level.
Which one was Sophie?
The white girl who's dating the
the
black guy. Yeah.
They have interracial.
But the fact that you have white people or whatever people of other races who date black people as kind of their fetish, and you know they're I mean, if it's just sex and you're having fun, some people are into that and everything, but if you're looking for a serious relationship, you can't be somebody's fetish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, they can't come after you because they're turned on by the fact that you're black.
And that's the thing. You know, black men and black women way over sexualized nowadays. You know, like almost like a taboo fetish thing that they do. And they addressed that with Coco.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was another very smart character.
Coco in a brilliant way. But Lionel, halfway through the movie, you realize that Lionel is the protagonist.
Pretty much, yeah. Like,
he is the hero of our film.
Because he ends up like taking out, like basically saving the day at the very end of the movie.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
Him and Sam are the only two people who are really seeing things for what they are.
Right.
Yeah, very well.
Okay, so let's talk about Coco for a bit. She was also another very interesting character because of the whole like the climax of the movie is basically just incredibly douchebag, dick in every way you can imagine character. I forget his name. I don't care. Just know he's played by one of those actors who is just the bully in every movie you fucking see him in. I don't even have to tell you.
Kurt, right?
Kurt.
Yeah.
All right, his name is Kurt. But I don't care if I see the actor movie. I know immediately what he's playing
because you can't get a name that's like.
Because he does fucking everything that can make you immediately hate him. He talks in that overly pretentious bullshit way. He's got the hair gel. He's got the leather jacket.
His name is Kurt Fletcher.
Yeah.
For fuck's sakes.
But bro, like seriously, before you go off on your tangent, just let's ground this in reality.
Yeah.
Every black dude knows a white dude like that.
Especially on college campus.
Who has, you know, like, you know, I won't name names, but there was this dude that I went to high school with who was my doppelganger in every way, except he was white and he took everything away from me.
Oh.
We went for the same stuff. We did the same things. We were just as equally as good as everything, but I could not catch a fucking break when that guy was around. And you know, yeah, like and what turns out to be the most fucked up part is that you get so mad, but then they turn around and they're good people.
Oh.
And it's and like I said, it's the oblivious nature. It's like he doesn't even know what's going on. I can see it because where I'm from. He can't see it because it's how his life has been the whole time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You can't get mad at that.
Yeah, you
can't get mad.
Kind of going back to what you're saying though about like cultural perspectives, and like that's why I don't really talk about this topic very often because like, you know, all I know is basically, for lack of a better term, white privilege, and it's like I don't even pretend to understand anything like you guys have been through because there's no way I can. Like I haven't lived through that. I haven't experienced. I could try to listen to you guys and understand from that perspective.
Okay, white privilege.
Something that we should mention about Kurt before going forward, though. While there are people who do that, and you know, it's just by nature they are good people. They get that stuff.
Yeah.
Kurt is very.
No. I mean, no. What I mean is that for every person of color, there is always that white douchebag dude who fucks up your day all the time.
Yeah.
My example was something different, but trust me, I knew white people who were just like Kurt.
But Fletcher in the film is quite definitively and decisively
the worst human being.
And then it turns out at the end, not so much.
I don't know.
Not really.
I think he genuinely. I don't know, the way he played it. He genuinely wanted to stop it. He genuinely felt like it was a bad idea. He got home. He got
I think
hella
it was a
confused.
bad idea until he got called out for it.
I don't think he knew how bad it would get until he stepped into the party. But when he got to the party, his obligation remained, and he
still went along with it.
his house.
Okay, and just to go back, the big thing that we're talking about right now is the fact that this dumbass for some reason gets the bright idea to make basically a blackface party.
It's an
Halloween
African
party.
Not basically.
party.
It is a blackface party.
African American themed party.
For all the fucking stereotypes
or
on display.
Hip-hop theme, because hip hop and black mean the same thing.
Right.
Because they're all
Of
saying
course.
they all think that
Of course.
Sam and her
Urban
message
party.
needs to get put in their place or some shit.
Right,
So-
which in itself is woefully
Ludicrous,
racist. You know, but it's, okay. So white privilege. Let's preface it like this. Okay, so you said you don't pretend to know anything about white privilege. You've heard the term.
Not that I don't pretend to know about white privilege. My point is, I don't pretend to know like anything, like experiences I can't personally understand.
Okay, well,
exactly.
Well, like imagine this. I'll ask you a couple quick questions. Okay, what's your first and last name?
Michael Medina.
Michael Medina. Where do your parents come from?
Live now or like historically?
Historically.
I think French Canadian origin.
French Canadian. Yeah. Where did their parents come from?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Would they be able to tell you?
I think they'd probably actually. Yeah.
Now, if you were to talk to their parents, would they be able to tell you where they came from?
In a much more biased way, yeah.
Okay, and would they be, and if magically, if their parents were alive, would they be able to tell you where they came from?
I don't know. They died before I was born. But probably.
Probably so.
Thank you.
Good. But let's just say records intact.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Records intact. If you went on Ancestry.com, you'd be able to find most of it.
Yeah, probably.
You believe so?
Okay.
So now understand that reality. Now, let's talk about my reality. Okay. I know my grandmother. I know my great grandmother. I know my great great grandmother on my mother's side. But after that, no records. Why?
Because of the racial diversity or
slavery.
Slave.
Plantations. Families being broken apart, stripped, destroyed. Families being taken away. Kids with mothers and fathers split up. Kids sometimes bred with each other to make more kids. Family, inbred, scattered all over the place, killed, forced into work, right? Scattered all over the place. That is reality for most black people in America. And that's to go on a deeper level, which is a conversation for a whole nother camera episode, is that the term African American is really a misnomer. You know what I'm saying? Because we are Americans. Our story is completely wrapped up in America. There's little to no trace left of African ancestry here, and that, my friend, is white establishment, white privilege as it exists. Lineages that go back hundreds of years in America, closer to America, different continents you can trace your family back to. Wealth, prestige, power, work, heirlooms, all of that stuff. Other side, completely barren.
Mm-hmm. Also consider that a lot of power and money are passed down.
Yeah.
So
right.
A lot of families that have been in power for a long time, like I forget what the exact number was, but a really alarmingly high percentage of Forbes 500 CEOs and like the richest people up there, like a good number of them have had their legacies inherited. So whether or not they were actually trained to take on those legacies, point being,
exactly,
it's familial.
Born set for life. There have been literally almost 1,000 years worth of African Americans born impoverished with nothing to leave behind and nothing given to them. You understand?
I think so.
When you to be born with an automatic disparity is the difference between a white person being born into the world and a black person being born into the world.
Now, let's also bring this down from the extremes, because while those are all true, the white privilege that Michael experiences is not that kind of
is
white
not
privilege.
that kind, but it is a kind.
It is a kind. The kind of white privilege that someone like you experiences is more along the lines of the subtle things, like how people talk to you, the how things go for you when you're on a job search or whatever, whether or not people trust you with their kids, whether or not people think you're gonna rob them when you just come up to them on the street to ask them a question.
Exactly. If we got pulled over right now, you're in the front seat, I'm in the passenger seat. It would go a lot different if it was switched.
Yeah, we were actually okay, last girlfriend I had, I'll tell you, especially because I lived in Los Gatos. For those of you who are not in the Bay Area, California, I got to live in Los Gatos.
Los Gatos is where this movie needs to play.
Yeah, I got to live in Los Gatos for a year. Los Gatos is a heavily community-centric community within the San Jose area. They're kind of south of the rest of the city on the way to Santa Cruz.
That was very diplomatic of you.
They fight. I've learned, but they fight very hard to keep their community the way it is, like to fight against things like low-income housing and dispensaries and things like that being built down there. And it's one of those places where you have the main area of a lot of really nice houses, and then you get into the hills and you get into the people who can afford to buy land.
You got stupid money.
Yeah, ridiculous money. You got the Silicon Valley nerds who are up in the mountains with like suits of armor and rotating garages and stuff, like because they can.
Oh,
now, this is the kind of money you're dealing with, and you bet your ass most of them are white as hell. And I got to live there for a year, and I'll tell you, driving around there, it was a big difference at the looks we got when my white girlfriend was driving and I was passenger, or if I was driving and she was the passenger.
Yeah, and it's something as simple as that to let you know that you are in a hostile environment. Now imagine, so like flip that over. Michael is driving through the hood. Okay, the looks that they give you is the looks we get every day. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I get the idea.
Okay.
Oh my
it's
God.
like, what the fuck?
What the fuck are you doing here?
Right.
Another thing that I should mention, an interesting thing that I think is relevant to how this subject is approached in the movie and otherwise, is having lived in Los Gatos for a year, if I let that shit get to me, I would have like gone crazy. So there was a point where I learned to kind of start enjoying it, almost in terms of like trolling the white people, like, yeah,
well, dude, and
this
that's
is my white Protestant girlfriend.
That's
and
how
she
you
loves the
survive,
shit
bro.
Out of my Middle Eastern ass.
Yes, that's how you survive.
We're
That's how
living
you
in your
survive.
neighborhood. It's like, we're just going to Safeway and like jeans and a t-shirt. We obviously don't have your money. Deal with it.
Right.
And yeah, it's really. I mean, living in a community where you're driving around and you see things like terrorist hunting permit, like on as a bumper sticker,
Jesus Christ.
like really, you can't
You should just
take it all seriously, or else you will go fucking crazy.
you should have just went out in the middle of the street and be like,
No, dude, I would have gotten shot, and nobody would have been a witness, even in the crowded street. You know that. They're like, oh man, it's that
I know they'd
guy.
be like, I didn't see anything. Gunshot.
He would come here to get sandwiches and shit. And man, it was just so weird having him in here. I was wondering, what do they want with their sandwiches? Like, but all that aside, it's the thing with.
Just want to point out he's making the racist jokes, not me.
But that's what we have to deal with.
We
Man.
have,
You
no,
have
that's what
to
I mean.
Make those jokes.
You have to. You have to. It's how we survive, bro.
That's part of like.
Otherwise,
the
we'd break
discussion.
down and cry and never leave the house.
Yeah, we
You know what I
have
mean?
to joke about these things, and we have to be sort of like self-deprecating, and that's not because we necessarily think it's funny. It's because we think it's ridiculous. And that can be funny to a certain extent, but it's not a good kind of funny. And when you're in an environment where people treat you like that continuously, it's like, I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed all the amenities of being in a neighborhood that was that nice and being next to such a huge park, and there was the creek and jogging trails and Whole Foods right down the street, like all that kind of stuff. But when I moved out of there, I was so relieved. Just my day-to-day life. And I did not realize how much that bothered me until I finally could relax from it. And it was so weird leaving and realizing that difference.
Well, because dude, you go down the wrong street and it's like, boom, 11 o'clock news. It literally is that bad all the time. You want to know my initiation into getting a driver's license? I was raised. I was born in Salinas. I was raised in Gilroy. I moved to San Jose when I was 10. My mother was the principal of my school, for Christ's sake. Okay. I get my driver's license at 17. I go off to one of my friend's birthday parties. I get stopped for the first time ever. My first stop, first day I got my license, right? Didn't have the license card, had the paper license, because back then there was no turnaround like that, right?
It still takes like 3-4 weeks.
Dude pulls me out the car. I hand him my paper license, fights with me for 20 minutes telling me that this is not a license. On the paper it says, this is a printed driver's license, okay? Sits me out on the curb. Again, mind you, I don't get to stand up. Sits me down on the curb right next to the gutter. Hands at my sides. Show me where your hands are at all times. Takes a flashlight, goes through the DMV rule book trying to find a rule to stick me with because I did nothing wrong. Okay? 40 minutes late to my party just for driving on the road. No criminal record. 17 years old. This is how oblivious white people do you. Or maybe that's not the right term. This is how white people who know what they're supposed to do you. And that is called institutionalized racism. You know, they got to meet their quotas, so they're like, okay, I have to stop a black dude. Let's do this. Maybe he's doing something. I was in an old beat up clunker, of course, you know, but yeah.
Condition in your car also. If you don't have a nice car,
exactly,
and you're not white,
yeah, that's another thing. Tons of people all around me with cars just like it. You know, it's you know.
I do have a question though. I do have a question though. It's like, do you think this is still like? I know it's like, in the old days, it was a big thing. My question is, how prevalent do you think it is today? And if it's still largely prevalent, do you think that's slowly starting to shrink?
Here's what's going on now.
He just told you about when he was growing up.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I mean, like from where you were then, where we are now.
I'm 31. That happened when I was 17.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a while. That's a while ago. So
Yeah,
90s, early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
So what we have now is what overtly racist people like to call post-racist or post-race society. If you've ever heard the term reverse racism, if you've ever heard these little kind of keywords that they throw in there, that is where the racism is at, and that's where it's at now.
Okay.
For a large part, we're having lots of good conversations and lots of good discussions, and things are changing. That is where my mind is at. That is where I think, you know, collective Black America is at. We're starting to see some turnaround here, and that's a great thing. Not necessarily just because of Barack Obama, but definitely because of how Barack Obama is seen as a person. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yes, it's gratifying and it's beautiful for the cause. What we have now is institutionalized racism. Generations of kids who are taught to be racist without knowing what it means or why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. You get what? And that's what I say. The oblivious nature comes in, where it's like you've lived your whole life a certain way. Of course you're gonna be this way. Mm-hmm. Of course you're gonna say these things. You know, it's passed down. Lineage, white privilege. It's passed down. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah.
I also think there's something to be said though about this generation's access to the internet.
True.
Yeah.
Because now, I mean, even low-income houses. I mean, shoot, if you afford like an iPhone from 3 years ago, I mean, you get that for free with a phone plan now. But if you can afford that, you have access to the internet, which means you have access to information. 20 years ago, we did not have that.
Very true.
Unless maybe if we went home and we sat on shit 10 years ago, we didn't have that shit. So now we have the point where people have very instant access to information. And with that instant access, a lot of the current generation has educated themselves, or at least seen enough of a diversity across the country and not just within their own communities to understand that there is more, there are other perspectives. You go and watch some video series on YouTube and it's got people who are different colors than you but do the exact same shit that you do. You relate to them.
There's an understanding there. Yeah. You're right.
And so within this new generation, there is more of an interest of, you know, not being so quick to like judge people in those ways that separate people. And I've noticed it's kind of a dual-edged sword where the internet generation kind of isn't aware of the past. Like,
and that's becoming a problem.
It is a problem.
That's like
it's a problem.
Yeah, because there's half of people who are like, "Wow, I didn't know this happened," and the other half is like, "What's the big deal?"
You have people who
You know what I'm saying?
That shit drives me crazy.
like
drives me nuts.
when they released the Titanic Anniversary Edition, and then people were posting on Twitter about how I just found out the Titanic was a real thing. Blew my mind.
Oh my god!
People who don't know what
Oh
the
my
Holocaust
God.
is. People who haven't even seen The Matrix. That was in '99, bro. like things like that.
Wait, how does
And-
that relate to the other two things?
Well, I mean, just in terms of like from actual history to like
To pop culture.
traumatic
Pop
history
culture's
to
a
pop
part of
culture
history.
history.
Yeah.
They're completely unaware of these really big things that caused a hubbub like a little while ago. So even though that is a disadvantage in certain ways, they also don't bring the baggage of that with them.
Which is the good thing.
For example,
is
you
the
get certain people, certain conservatives have a huge thing for Ronald Reagan.
Right.
Most conservatives. But the thing is that you have people who, these days they come along with little education on the topic. And they'll look at not necessarily the fact that this is what Reagan said, so it's a good idea, but rather look at it as, this is the idea. Well, this part's good, this part sounds kind of weird and doesn't seem like it's working, so let's talk about that. So they don't have that baggage to it, and I think that race is part of that. The way that people are able to talk about race now, it's almost like they're just looking at things and reacting to them and figuring it out for themselves instead
Right.
of just going necessarily with all they've been taught.
That's true.
Side note: New Republicans. Ronald Reagan raised.
Neocon.
Don't believe the lies. Ronald Reagan raised taxes a bunch of time. He gave amnesty to illegal immigrants, and he did try to fund the Iraq Contra scandal. So sorry.
Let's not get too heavy into politics
Go
on that one.
I mean, well, if you really want to talk about Reaganism,
Just YouTube. YouTube is in the business of bursting bubbles. So I just figured I'd do that for all of you guys out
Right, now
there.
we get like an army of Reagan fans sending me tons of hate mail and threats.
Do your homework. Iran Contra scandal. Do your homework. All right. Oh, also, well, it's relevant because Ronald Reagan was an actor. Bedtime for Bonzo, horrible film. Okay, moving on.
All right, moving on. I do like, you guys making some great points there. I do want to talk a bit more about the movie, though. Is the fact that one thing I did like the movie that was really, really smart, again, on their part, and it's not just from the characters, the fact that it's a comedy.
It is a comedy.
Which is actually a really smart way to do it.
It has to be.
Yeah, because like,
It has to be.
because like comedy is like a rarer form, especially if done right, in my opinion, like where you can make an incredibly poignant and strong message, and it will completely disarm your audience. That's what comedy does. It disarms people. It gets them off guard, and that's when like you actually throwing the message in there, people are more likely to listen.
Well, I mean, imagine this as
Or the-
drama. It just wouldn't.
It wouldn't work as well.
Wouldn't work
But no,
nearly
my
as
point is like I think that's what will help the message get along better to people. It's the fact that it is in a way that's naturally disarming to the natural audience. Because again, you're not expecting that, so when it does hit you, like, oh shit, and you're more willing to like kind of listen to it because it's unexpected. At least that's my personal experience on that.
And no, you're right. And the comedic mechanism for people who are not black in the film is that there's the people that know, there's the people that don't know, and then there's people that don't know that they don't know. And that creates different levels of funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Through
So like there's that one line that the president says, like the dean, the president, some kind of rivalry that's going on for years, and the president goes, "There's no more racism anymore. Young people that do it nowadays are Mexicans or something."
Right.
All the audience just went, "Ugh."
And the funniest part for me, my favorite race line, comedy line in the film is oh, spare me your tragic mulatto bull.
Yeah.
You can't say mulatto. Mulatto.
Did you say mulatto?
That is my shit. That is my shit.
Now the interesting thing about this though is like a lot of these things that we talked about, I didn't even know were things. You had to tell me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Bring some up.
Like the homosexual black thing. I did not know that was a thing.
That's a thing. In the African American community, it is still stigmatized to be gay and be black. Like, you're double fucked if you're gay and you're black. Dude.
Consider the kind of overly masculine mindset that is kind of has homophobia as part of it.
Very true.
That's not just necessarily a black thing, but a symptom of masculinity that is universal, but is also within the black community.
Okay.
So,
but
the
yeah,
problem is
but-
that the
but
black
it is-
community, as part of its defense mechanism, I feel I can't obviously, but as a part of their own defense mechanism, is to be overly masculine.
Very true. But
yeah.
also the most stigmatism comes actually from black women in response to gay black men.
Really?
Be it because the way that they perceive it, the way that they see it is, more competition for black men. You get what I'm saying? That's the way they see it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas the black gay guy will have tons of white girlfriends, is very hard pressed to find black women friends.
Actually,
You understand?
kind of going what you're bouncing off what you're talking about there, like the black guy thing, is
Yeah.
the fact that one of the main characters, Sam, in this movie, like, she's kind of sort of like basically sleeping with one of the TAs on campus, and it looks like he wants a relationship of some kind, but she doesn't want that because she's afraid about how others will see it. But she
Right.
does end up doing like the one of the Reggie, the over-the-top black guy.
Well, yeah,
And because
she ends up kind of falling for that stigmatism as well.
Yeah, and then
where
he-
it's
and
like,
then, like,
I gotta be with a black man.
And the TA goes like, "What do you see in him?" She literally just goes, "He's the only eligible single black guy in that group."
And that right there encapsulates a part of the culture that you may not have known.
Yeah.
And it's that, they're looking like, and again, total long conversations we can have later. But safe to say that the stigmatism again comes from the stereotype of black men, either really great, do right by their women and hard to find, or don't exist, and we're always stuck with the hood thug dudes who got 7 different babies mamas and whatever. So again, yes, the black woman is in that dilemma of black men date outside the race all the time, but if black women do it, it's kind of looked at like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So they're always looking for the black dude.
Well,
Actually, sorry,
You know?
I just remembered the South Park episode that dealt with that, where in like
Okay.
no Token. You watch South Park?
I don't watch it. No.
Okay, well, there's like these. There's only one black kid named Token. And he starts dating
some
another black
good
girl,
race
and the
episodes,
dad loses his shit. Like, you don't have to date another black woman. You can date white people. It's okay.
Right.
But he gets like the. Anyway, you can watch.
And
it.
no, but that is a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing. So bring up another one, just for the people.
one of the minor ones that you kind of brought up too is black people aren't allowed to watch sci-fi for some reason.
Well, it's not that they're not allowed to watch sci-fi. It's that again, the hypersexualized, hypermasculine type of culture that black people have sort of given to themselves.
Only certain nerd shit is acceptable.
Only certain nerd shit is acceptable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you watch, like for instance, anything awkward or out of the ordinary for a black person automatically leads to the stigma of homosexuality. Okay? Have you seen Boondocks?
Yeah.
Perfect example.
I don't watch it.
Nah, that dude gay. That dude was gay. What are you talking about? He's just doing this. Nah, he gay. And if you like him, you gay. Okay? It's that sort of a thing, right? Well, you like. Remember Boondock? You like a rapper who's gay. Man, he ain't gay. He's this and that and the other. I don't know what I saw, okay? You know what I mean? It's like, okay? Right.
You saw him kiss another dude. Man, I hit my head.
I don't know what I saw. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
dear
He's
God.
like, man, you gay. Right? And that, seriously, that gets thrown around a lot. Like, yeah, if you, for instance, and again, that depends on how you're socialized, how you're brought up. Not all black people are the same. You know, I stress that not all black people.
That's
are the
really a
same.
great way of demonstrating.
You know,
that.
I grew up watching old black and white movies with the Smothers Brothers dancing. I grew up watching Sidney Poitier, Lawrence Fishburne, James Earl Jones. This is what makes me want to be an actor. Ernie Hudson in Ghostbusters, my dog.
Did you have the Cosby dream?
With that was funny. That was funny. See, yeah, but that's the thing. Every black person has the Cosby dream. Okay? Every black person who grew up at that time has the Cosby dream. Like, what would it be like?
Large sweaters.
Right. But yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like these things are prevalent in our culture, and the way things. I don't even know if they're on purpose, but they do happen. And Justin Simeon does a really good job of encapsulating that for people who have just, like, if you have just walked in here from a spaceship, if you want to know how black people are, like, yeah, it's really like that.
Well,
You know?
right now I just feel like I have to buy everyone in here like In-N-Out burgers. My white guilt is doing somersaults.
Reparations.
You know what? You know what?
Form of hamburgers.
I support that. Reparations.
In the
4x4
form
on a
of
mule. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Forgot about that line.
Yeah, I won't kill that line, but that's a great line.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, like I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Any questions you want to ask me while the cameras are off? Let's do that. I feel like I could talk about this all night. It feels like a tremendous weight lifted off my shoulders just going into the theater and seeing African American actors do that and be accepted in a major theater is like it's music to my ears. It's music for me.
I mean, it's definitely a good. It's definitely a good start.
I feel like it accomplishes the same thing that a good letter does, in the sense that it's not meant to be a dialogue simply because it's been a dialogue for so long and it hasn't been equally represented in that dialogue. So to be able to like, that's part of the point of Dear White People. It's almost like they're writing a letter, like,
Right.
these are the things that we've been trying to tell you, and this
Forever.
is why. And let's try to explain them to you a little bit, and why this is not fucking okay. And it managed to eloquently state that, but at the same time as using that title and that perspective to say what they wanted to white people, they attracted black people who thought they'd just be sitting there laughing at white people, but got them to talk about their shit too.
Exactly. Perfect. Boom. Nail on the head.
I
Yes.
like that.
This movie is not only about what white people can do to address these issues, but it is definitely about how black people look at themselves and what we need to be paying attention to that is hurting us. You know? And it does it well. You know, also much love to the Asian actresses representing in the movie.
She was sitting there like, there's a part of the very end, like the black student union center.
There's an Asian girl in the
There's an
black
early girl in the
student
black
union.
student union, and she goes, "You guys have better snacks."
Yeah, but what's funny is that she's been in several scenes and nobody has said a word to her. You know? And all of a sudden she just pipes up and says something, and she's like, "Oh, y'all caught me." I'm here. But then they let her roll. So you know,
It's like, yeah, you're okay. We accept you.
Well, she came with them to the party. She was just as pissed off.
Right. She was tearing afro wigs off too.
Yep.
You know, much love.
Oh god. Well, it's like let's come back to these kind of movies in general. Like the only movie I could think of that kind of like instigated this kind of reaction, this kind of discussion that we've been having in this video so far is The Hunt that came out last year. Is the closest resemblance I could think of. It wasn't about racial diversity, but it was about a man falsely accused of child molestation.
Yeah.
All right. Let's try to avoid spoilers for me for that one.
But if you want to see
see
movies like that will affect you in this way, I mean, you know, this has been done before, but in a more inflammatory fashion. The Spike Lee collection goes over all this stuff. You know, if you want something specifically geared towards college and you're looking for something else like this movie, go see School Days. You know what I mean? School Days from Spike Lee, it's actually part musical, it's part, you know, everything. And it addresses the same kind of stuff just in the 80s and you know, early 90s.
I just be careful not to get your Taylor Swift in there, because I was so careful.
Oh, yeah.
That is part of why this movie is so relevant, though, because it is a modern take on things.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
very, very much in the zeitgeist.
Like, I was confused at first, because I wasn't sure, like, I saw, like, the main character standing with, like, the very old-fashioned camera. I was like, does this take place back in, like, the 60s?
Oh, come on.
well, no.
We all have our pretentious film nerd.
Well, no, come on. What it is that again, you know, film degree. You know, we
just announce that every time it's on the movies. Film degree.
We're doing film and theater. So
Just talk nonchalantly, have a hand raised up in front of you.
So the cinematic language that they're trying to show, right at that point where she's holding the millimeter camera, is notice she's in a wicker chair. She's sitting down in a wicker chair.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of chair that Huey Newton used to sit in for his photos with the Black Panthers. Okay? She's holding the camera from the 60s. She's sitting in the 60s chair. The whole motif is the fury of 66.
Yeah, and that totally threw me off for a second. Then I realized, wait a minute, they're watching it on modern television.
But just Google a picture of Huey Newton, the leader of the Black Panthers, and he's got a picture where he's sitting in the wicker chair with the spear and the gun and all that. You know, it's what That's what that was supposed to be.
I also found another thing that entered in that image was just the fact that, the camera's pointed at you. Understand that this is a movie, but you need to be thinking about how it applies to you.
Mm. Your reactions are just as important as what's going on in the movie.
Yeah.
And that astute observation. That was good.
Yeah, so I think tonight has been very, very educational.
A lot to think about.
Yes, so I have a lot to absorb tonight, and I'm just gonna. Who wants burgers?
I want a burger.
I do need to get to work by midnight, and I need to run home before then.
Oh, so, okay, so we should probably wrap things up then.
I do need to get going. As much as I would love your reputation burgers.
I'll speak for him. Give me a burger.
Give him my burger.
We'll do the Goodwill Hunting thing. We'll put your burger on layaway. Put your burger right here. You can pay it up.
I like them burgers.
That's hilarious.
I'm not even gonna waste my time with trailers tonight. So unless there's anyone I'm really dying to talk about.
You know what? I was so involved in the film. I can't remember half the trailers I saw. I remember.
I don't even think this video should be diluted by the trailer.
No, I'm absolutely with you on that one. So fuck that. We're gonna skip that tonight.
Interesting racial discussions.
Yeah, so definitely go see this movie. It's very, very interesting.
Go see it. And if you have ever had a question that you wanted to ask a black person, don't be afraid. Ask a black person, but do it politely, and don't touch hair.
So you're gonna count that as your final word?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got anything? Final thoughts?
Seriously, watch this movie and watch it with a black person, and talk to them about it afterwards. Seriously, watch it with someone who has some perspective on these issues, and see what the different reactions to the film were. And have a good conversation about it, and be open to those conversations.
You'll learn a whole lot more.
It's very interesting, the different things that this film tries to tackle.
Notice how I actually shut the fuck up the majority of this movie. I was learning.
Learning. John,
I know I was loud. I couldn't help but laugh at some of that
John,
shit. It was amazing.
Any last words to top off your numerous contributions to this conversation?
Can I rub your head?
Yeah, can I touch your hair? Is it...
No.
Do you want to touch mine?
No. All right, let's trade.
After all that, no, I'm not doing it.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, head around.
All right, now I get yours.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
This got weird. All right, we're gonna wrap it up.
It's only as weird as you make it, Michael.
Well, let me turn the camera off. Let's get really freaky.
Oh no.
Oh hell.
No.